Hello, my name's Rob Sanders, and I've been asked to speak today by the highly valued partner, Data Technology, about the journey we've been on with them over the last 3 years. So, who are we? Who do I work for? I work for a company called Jones Lang LaSalle, or JLL. We're a world leader in real estate services, and we're powered very much by an entrepreneurial spirit. We've got 90,000 colleagues worldwide. We're in 80 countries, and we've got 300 corporate offices. We've got 4.6 billion of properties under management and facilities management, and we operate on 37,500 lease transactions annually. And we spend, more importantly for us, almost 100,000 hours volunteering in our local communities. And we're very conscious that we make our contributions to the local charities, and that we've got a very, very heavy part to play in the carbon reduction process. More specifically, the business line that I support as the head of technology is the managed services division, or for anyone who knows real estate or property, it's an old money, the property and asset management division. So within the UK, we've got 1,400 colleagues, we've got 8 corporate offices, and we've got 200 clients that are ranging from large institutional investors through to private individual investors. We've got over 4,000 properties that we manage in the UK, and we've got over 25,000 of our clients' customers or occupiers. And we process about £6 billion worth of client money every year. We offer a broad service from design for management through to customer experience, placemaking, but most importantly, getting the basics right on the financials, the data, and the health and safety. So our journey with data technology and Qlik began back in 2017. We had an immediate requirement to look at our debt management platform. At the time, we had a platform that spanned across 4 different systems, and it was bringing data together. But it was very bad at the reporting outputs, and it was only used by about 40 people. So we went to the market looking very much for a solution that was driven by the reporting, that could be used by the majority of the team that needed to access that information, but could also allow the fulfillment of the credit control activity, so the recording of notes and actions, and the automation of communications out to the occupiers. Surprisingly, when we talked to data technology, we realized that we could achieve all of this through Clickfence and associated products. And one of the benefits of having a good partner is that they can look around and bring different products to the market or from the market into your organization. So we looked at the problem and we realized that Clickfence clearly had the standard reporting functionality that we were looking for. End printing could deliver the correspondence or communications out to the occupiers. So that's just using end printing in a different way. And instead of using it for internal reporting, using it, its core functionality of the contact email address to drive the reporting out to an external party. But most surprisingly for us, we found that because of the open source nature of Qlik, a write-back extension could be implemented alongside and creates an opportunity then for our credit control team to insert notes, select specific drop-down attributes, diarize events and activities against individual occupiers and charges. That was a revelation for us and how we could move forward. So with that in mind, we were able to create a solution that delivered all of the reporting, so very much what you see on the screens now. It was able to diarize the events and add the notes. That was fantastic. That was a really useful addition for us on the write back. And we were able to then automate the correspondence out to the occupiers. So we were able to craft effectively a statement of their account, a very tailored letter based on dates. So for example, you have these amounts becoming due in 7 days' time. But by the way, you also have these other items outstanding. Or after the event, we could write to them and say, the debt has now become due. Please can you make payment, etc., with the relevant details. So we were very much able to use Qlik to do this, which was a real benefit to us. In terms of how we made a business case and how we got this into the business, we were very much, again, looking at that comparable between the old and the new. And we were able to determine that the old system, if we upgraded on that path, we could have had 40 users for a price, but we could have 400 users accessing and self-serving in Qlik for about 2/3 of the price. So from that perspective, it was absolutely a clean return on investment. After that, we've moved on. So we did that back in 2017. But as we've been progressing our own business and our wider sort of platform structure over the last few years, in 2019, we realized that actually we were using Qlik for a fairly limited purpose with the credit control function, and there was a lot more that we could get out of it. So we looked at our estate of systems and we looked at the new platforms that we were putting into the business. When we did that, we realized that we could sit Qlik over the top of the databases. And when we looked at the user base that would normally access those systems, we ascertained fairly quickly that actually most of the requirement outside of the data and finance teams was very much just accessing reports and information. Again, with that in mind, we decided to deploy Qlik over the top of our ERP estate, and we were able to do a cost avoidance of over £700,000 per annum by not taking the licenses on the underlying systems for those that just need report access, but actually just increasing our user license count from 400 to 1,400 with Clickfence. Again, that's proved really beneficial. Clear return on investment through cost avoidance, a much simpler and intuitive way for our colleagues to access the data. But that's not enough. So we've delivered the original ROI and we've delivered the secondary ROI. But fundamentally, we're now sitting on a platform through Qlik that allows us to keep building out and developing a standard approach to our business. So we've developed things like iframes. These sound very simple, but what we're actually doing is pulling down documents from an image repository and linking them to the transactions. So this means, for example, if somebody wants to look at an expenditure report through Qlik, but actually look at the AP image, we can now achieve that. And the same for the sales ledger. So if we have items that are being charged out to the occupiers, but our surveying team, for example, don't have access to the underlying ERP, historically they'd be asking for a copy of the image. Again, we've pulled that down from the image repository and linked it to the transaction. Other things that we've done in Qlik. So, for example, we've built trial balances, key balance sheet reconciliations, and we've used Qlik to automate the reconciliation, effectively matching off and flagging through a ragging system, red, amber, green, whether things are actually within tolerances or not. So we're very much now moving towards using this as a sort of everyday management platform over our ERPs. We're also conscious, however, that somebody might land on this, realise they have an action, but then have to consciously think about moving out to another platform. So to deal with that, almost all of our platforms are now in the single sign-on JLL infrastructure and the Okta authentication. And what we're doing is we're embedding underlying links to other systems if that's appropriate, so that if you go into Qlik and you realise you have an action, you can click on an item, for example, our workflow system. So Qlik will tell us that we have a workflow activity outstanding. It will even diarise a reminder email using endprinting. But if we want somebody to action it, that information, they just click on the hyperlink for that transaction in the workflow and it will open up the relevant workflow for them and it will allow them to then process that transaction. We've built management apps for real-time information. So this is very much now thinking about how do we combine our time recording information from a different platform with our revenue recognition from our corporate platform, with the underlying data we hold about the assets and the volume of work that should be going on, with the actual time sheets, or sorry, the rate cards for the individuals. And this is allowing us to, in real time, look at the profitability of the business. So we're able to look very much at, should these instructions need more or less resource? Do we need to go and have conversations with our clients about maybe a fee increase if they want the service that they now appear to be looking for because they're looking for more work? Possibly most pleasing for me is that we're seeing an evolving level of data literacy among our colleagues. So they're becoming much more confident on how to engage with the data. And this is very much due to the intuitive nature of Qlik. So, how are we getting those people to engage and how are we getting those people through into the system? This has actually been a really big challenge for us. dare I say it, real estate property management is not a very fast-moving space or sector in regards to technology adoption. So the challenge is actually that Qlik is the new solution. It's not traditional in our sector. It's not a property system. It's not something that many of our employees would recognize as a system that they would normally use. And that's led to quite a large amount of adoption delay through the business. So we've been trying to solution that in different ways. And we were doing some of this prior to COVID, but actually in the environment we've all been in working at home, it's been really helpful that we already had this in place. So we've got regular training sessions. They're mandatory on an annual basis, but anyone can attend any other session if they want to recap. They're being held on WebEx because of the volume of people that join those meetings. We've got a network of champions across our office locations. So across the UK regional offices, we have a champion for Clickfence in each office, at least one. When people have been working remotely, so a lot of our site staff work within buildings that they manage, not actually in our offices, they're able to drop into those champion sessions in the remote offices as well. But we've made a heavy use of Microsoft Teams. And again, this has paid off really well for us in the COVID-related times, but it was already there. So within Teams, we've got a lot of training videos and material. We've got user guides. We've got an informal networking area, so very much a chat area for people to just ask questions. It's certainly not the place to raise any issues, but it is the place they can ask, has anyone done this? Does anyone know how to? And very much now we see peer-to-peer responses. But if it's required, the technical teams do monitor that, and they will jump in and add a response as well. But the most encouraging thing there has been to see actually colleagues on a peer-to-peer basis helping each other. And probably most importantly for us is we don't actually give people, when they first ask or join, the link to Qlik. What we actually do is give them the link to the team site. And from within there, they can access Clickfence because they can see the links to Qlik from there, or we've actually created the web page. So what's our next journey? What are we doing? So we're continuing to transform the business, but this year, as we all know, it's been quite challenging. So we've had some really quick responses that we've had to adapt through Qlik and through the Qlik extensions on the right back. So back in March, we had to close down the best part of 1,500 multi-occupied buildings. No mean feat, had to do that within weeks, but we had to make sure we were doing it in a way that meant we weren't closing key premises. So for example, a lot of the properties we manage have pharmacies or supermarkets or what you would call key locations. So we needed a very quick way for our senior management team to see what was going on, but for our site-based staff to actually record what was going on in terms of the property status. So, you know, what was it now? Where did they think it was going to be in the future as they go through? And to do that, we built a write-back extension, which then linked into our master data on Qlik, and then visualized it in a different app for the management team. So we used the write-back extension to harvest the information. We used Qlik in the purer sense to merge that data with the underlying ERP data. And then we visualized it in a view-only app for our management team that allowed them to see in pretty much real time what was going on the portfolio across the country. So this allowed our staff to close down in a controlled manner buildings. It allowed them to reopen them again through the summer. But for us, this was just a really, really simple way of showing how we turned around the requirement in 4 business days from requirement to design, testing and deployment for a solution for something that clearly none of us had seen coming. So again, the agility of Qlik, the agility of the extensions that we have has really paid off for us here. But what's next? So again, we're continuing to transform, and this is something that we're literally doing right now. So we have to think about how our clients become more data literate and how we engage with our customers. How do we get closer to them? How do they self-serve the information? So probably like most organizations, we have a substantial amount of cost and time spent on reporting. And we want to make that a self-service thing for our clients and our customers. There's an immediate return on investment, even if you get 1 or 2 clients to buy into that. But if you can get all of your clients to buy into that, it's a substantial return on investment. So from our perspective, we know that we've got Qlik and we know that we have the QAP. But how do we surface the QAP in a secure way that meets all of the sort of security protocols that large institutional clients expect? So encrypted servers, etc., etc. And to do that, again, we went to our partner. We went to data technology and we said, look, we've got this requirement. We want to do this. We want to go through the QAP, but we don't really want to build, ad hoc web pages to surface that QAP information and manage those in a really cumbersome way. So data technology came to us and said, well, we've got a product that we think will meet this requirement, and it's called Theia. So we've been looking at Theia for some time, and we've just contracted on it, and our aim is to go with a live client proof of concept before the end of November. And what this will do for us is it will allow a client to access Theia using a JLL credential, so it's secure in that fashion. And it has a concept of game boards. So fundamentally, we can now produce a game board for our client that brings through several things. So it can bring through JLL marketing information and RSS feeds, but also it allows us to surface the Qlik apps with all of their embedded functionality. So a client can go in, they can see the maps, the graphs, and the data, but they can also export that straight into Excel. And therefore, we're giving our clients effectively the access to Qlik that they've been asking for, because we've been showing them internally what we have, but we're now giving it to them in a way that means that they get the functionality, but we get the low sort of maintenance costs that we've been looking for to deliver. Because what we do is we create a generic game board, and all we do is we create within the QAP the app that the client is going to see, but securitized to that client's data in the QAP. So that for us gives us that immediate return. It gives us that ability to look very much towards client self-service. But we think in the medium to long term, there's a really big opportunity here to commercialize the data. So we know that the clients have data to a point that we have to play back to them. It's their data. But what if we bring in different data sources? What if we start to bring in other information that's really valuable to them that they haven't considered? So for example, we have a lot of turnover rents within the real estate industry. Now, turnover rent is fundamentally looking at the sales information for an occupier. They pay a base level of rent, but they pay a top-up based on the turnover of the premises. Well, we've also got the footfall data, and we've also got the weather data. So if we were to put those three things together, do we see a correlation between the weather and the footfall and the sales? And if we can see that, we might even be able to go to the retailers and provide that as a particular piece of information. But more importantly for us, we can go to our clients and talk about the insight of what that data is telling us, and whether or not what the occupier is confirming about their sales is resonating with the footfall within the premises. So that's the type of thing we want to bring as insights and opportunity, and that's the type of thing that clients would potentially look for. So the future, what are we doing after this year? So we want to encourage much more use of mobile. So as I say, a lot of our site staff are literally based on site. They're out on the premises that we manage. We want them to be using their tablets more via Chrome rather than sitting at their desks or their laptops. We're going to be launching the iOS app from Qlik and making it more accessible for our staff to use that data when they're on site. So who are the occupiers when they're there? What information can I see? Can I see the arrears information while I'm talking to that tenant? Again, we want more data. We want those additional sales data. We want the footfall. We want the health and safety information, sustainability information. We want to bring all of that together on top of our ERP sources. So again, that's a really big thing for us. We want evolution of the apps and the reporting. So we want to make much more use of geoanalytics. We want to layer that data on properties and sectors and locations. We want to see those trends up and down the country in the hotspots for where we might be saving energy versus not, or where there are particular health and safety trends versus not. We want to automate the data analytics, and we want to get to a predictive outcome-based solution. Most importantly, we want to continue to think outside the box. We want to be outside the real estate industry at times, looking for the solutions to those business issues. We want to consider how we complete, for example, budgeting and forecasting within the Qlik environment, Possibly that has additional extensions that we need to go for. Possibly the things we've already got will do it. But how do we make it so that people are coming more into Qlik as our one repository of information? And then maybe Qlik becomes part of the ERP stack, and it's feeding that data back from the database in Qlik, or the write-back extensions into the ERP systems. And then there's our end goal. What do we really want to get out of this? Well, we want to make our data easily accessible and intuitive to use for all of our colleagues and customers. We want to take our colleagues and customers past the standard reporting outputs. We want to go into a base level of data literacy where they're all comfortable and they almost want to ask, what will I discover if I make this selection? And we want to automate the insights. We want to drive our process and the customer experience based on a broad set of data sources. We really want to get people engaged with the data. So hopefully that gives you an idea of what we've been doing at JLL. Hopefully it gives you a clear understanding that with the right partner, and I'm very fortunate that we have that in data technology, you can get real value out of the product and associated products that you can bring into that platform. So I just want to say thank you for attending the session. If you've got any questions, please visit the Data Technology Sponsorship booth, and it would be great to see you there. So thank you.